Welcome to the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast with your host, Brandon Seigel. I'm a published author, speaker, entrepreneur, and private practice strategist dedicated to transforming the way that healthcare functions. This podcast is all about empowering you to create the change you want to see. Let's dive in. Welcome back. In this episode, we're talking about building a leadership culture from zero to hero. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different in this episode. One of the things I wanted to do was share a case study. And for the sake of privacy, the names have been changed. So the names are fictional. But this is a real experience, and I wanted you all to hear about it because I really think it talks about how we can build leadership from when we are literally a business of one to a business of 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever that may be. So for today's case study, we're talking about a company, Pediatric Health Associates, from chaos to cohesion. You got it. So Pediatric Health Associates was in Los Angeles, California. It was founded by a doctor, Dr. Howard Goldstein. And Dr. Goldstein started this practice in 2016. And when he started out, it was just him and this sweet woman named Nancy. And Nancy worked as kind of the octopus of the private practice. She was the assistant, the receptionist, the phlebotomist, the medical assistant, HR, and more. And after 5 years, the practice grew to include one nurse practitioner, 2 receptionists, 2 medical assistants, and a full-time office manager. Although this organization grew exponentially in 5 years from what it was, the practice was plagued. And so what Dr. Goldstein was going through, he had high staff turnover, inconsistent practice patient satisfaction, and ultimately there was a lack of direction. And yes, the pandemic did intersect with this practice and had some effects. But they called me and they said, "Hey, Brandon, we need some help. We heard your podcast." This was from my older podcast. And what I quickly recognized was that Dr. Goldstein was skilled as a physician, but he had no formal leadership training. And he assumed that his team would naturally follow his lead. He just figured, hey, I'm the doctor, I'm the boss, I'm the kingpin. They're going to follow. And he anticipated that because he had an office manager, everything would fall in line. His goal was, hey, I'm the leader of the crew because I'm the doctor and the owner, and the office manager is going to be the glue that makes everything stick in the right organization, the right structures, the right systems, and the alignment for each and every employee. Was he right? No, this is a case study. If he was right, I would have no journey to share with you. So as things continued to turn to chaos, he felt more disconnected from his purpose. His team, his patients, and burnout was churning. Literally in his head, it was like, do I just sell out? Do I go into a conglomerate like a Kaiser Permanente? What do I do? And so, really important, my personal perspective is that burnout is not a byproduct of energy, effort, or physical exhaustion. It truly is a result of not doing what you were born to do, not fulfilling your purpose, and seeing that the progress is not happening. And so Dr. Goldstein was very passionate about being a doctor. He wanted to help kids, and he thought that because he had an office manager, everything would fall in place. He never recognized the responsibility of leading on a mission, leading with goals. And so I believe his burnout truly was a direct byproduct of he was doing the wrong functions in his business. He did not have enough going on that filled his bucket. And for someone to go from, hey, I've got this private practice and I'm really excited to, why am I doing it? Maybe it's time to sell out. I think it's really important. And I like to tie in real examples. So many of you know, because I share it a lot, is my 8-year-old son is a diehard baseball fan. And this year, he got burnt out. And he signed up to play travel ball. He signed up to play rec ball. And he believed that baseball had no limits. The direct reality was that it was too much. He lost his love, not because of burnout, but because I think what he really loved was playing with his friends. And I think he loved the game of baseball. But the stakes that travel ball brought in created burnout. It wasn't, yes, he was on the field for 6 days and all these different things. But I think the real burnout was baseball stopped feeling fun at a certain point. And so the dilemma is not the requirement of 6 days a week. We did not do a good enough job of evaluating his capability. That was one of the problems. So I do think 6 days was a lot for him, but I didn't do a good enough job of knowing what did he really want? What was it that he really enjoyed? And I recognize each kid's motor is different. With my son, I felt that twofold. One was the intensity of the stakes of travel was not fun for him. Whether he had the skill or not, it was not fun. And the other was he really was a 3 to 4 day a week baseball player. And so when we're looking at this burnout, when we're looking at people that are not enjoying their jobs and employees and all these different things, I bring this up to say, first and foremost, understand your employees. Understand if they are a 3 day a week baseball player or 6 day a week baseball player. Understand what brings them joy. Understand what burnout means to them and understand what their ideal scene was. Jonah never wanted to necessarily play what I call his competitive baseball. His ego wanted to play competitive baseball, but his true central nervous system didn't enjoy it. And so when you're putting your employees into roles in your company, part of your leadership responsibility is to understand what they're good at, what they're not, where they're going. And so even when I went into Dr. Goldstein's practice, I had to facilitate a needs assessment. And the needs assessment actually was not originally of Dr. Goldstein. The needs assessment was for everyone but Dr. Goldstein, so I could get the foundation of the needs, wants, desires of the organization. And as we went on, I met with Dr. Goldstein to find out what his needs assessment was. And what ultimately I recognized was that Dr. Goldstein was not born to be a leader, he was not trained to be a leader, and he did not desire to be a leader. So then you're like, well, why is he in this? Well, he did not sign up to be a leader. He signed up to own a practice. And I think it's really important when we're looking at our practice that there's different roles that we have. There's an ownership role, there's a clinical role, there's administrative roles, there's management roles, and then there's leadership roles. Not every owner is a leader, manager, or even a clinical delivery. Sometimes they're just investors. So understanding your practice and how you go about deconstructing not just your leadership approach, but also the needs, wants, and desires of the organization, but also the bandwidth, the capability. So when I approached Dr. Goldstein and he gave me his story, he was ready to shut his doors. He could no longer blame the pandemic because initially he said, the pandemic really hurt and all this stuff, but the root cause of his burnout was a disconnect of his staff and not doing the work before he opened his practice to understand what type of role he wanted, figuring out what the reality of the role he wanted to actually accomplish. So over the course of 18 months, I worked with Dr. Goldstein and eventually his staff. My first step with him was I helped Dr. Goldstein define his leadership values and vision. He realized that although this was communicated, it was never acted on. So he always communicated his leadership values and vision, but he never acted on it. He recognized that he had given the responsibility away to this manager, to this Nancy, but he never measured the function. He ultimately gave the keys to his castle because he didn't want to take responsibility, but he had no accountability in place. And through our coaching process, he recognized that his leadership did not fill his bucket. He was looking to others to lead, but never attracting leaders, but attracting job title hunters. And I think that's really important for you to recognize. How many people in your organization are taking jobs based on the clout of the role, the title, the function? How many people want to put in the nitty-gritty work? How many people want to do that? And when we're small, when we're really small, we have to sometimes invest beyond our affordability because without it, we can't grow. Your leadership is a springboard to scale. And often when we are small is when we need leadership the most. The leadership is what drives connection, direction, and accountability. So, through our process, Dr. Goldstein, he realized he was a skilled physician, and ultimately, he realized that he needed a change. So my next step was I met with each employee to understand the following: their perspective on the chaos. Did they see chaos? Their intention, why they were there. Were they just there to make a paycheck? Was it just a job and a role and it filled their financial needs? Was it more than that? And then I wanted to check what their responsibility level was. Each employee I would have coffee with, and I would connect, and I would really look, without putting them in a fight or flight, we would just have conversations. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is my Brandon time. And ultimately, through these conversations, we decided to put down on paper. I helped coach them to understand what are their needs, wants, and desires. I became a coach to them in order to coach the cohesion of the organization. And one of the things that I asked was, who do they want to lead them? What does leadership look like? And it became apparent that no one wanted to upset Dr. Goldstein. And they were afraid to overstep the role, so no one took responsibility. And that ultimately, through this process of motivational interviews and SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threat, with each employee, both on the organization, on themselves, and even on other team members, along with testing, we were able to discover a direction for the organization. And this was what was exciting. Through this process, a leader was not just born, a leader was identified. There was this lovely nurse, and she was a nurse practitioner, and her name was Lisa Donovan. And Lisa was a natural-born leader. She not only had the clinical expertise in the bedside manner, but she knew how to elevate others to reach their potential. She was able to lead patients, and through her leadership of patients, we recognized she had the traits and experience and expertise to not just lead patients, but to lead a staff. And that she was able to motivate them while holding them accountability and really driving them towards goals that were meaningful to not just them, but the organization. So over the course of 6 months of this 18-month transformation cycle, we came up with the following. Each individual had to have goals. Each team had to have goals. Each employee had to have a leadership mindset. So we actually trained them on what leadership was and the difference between leadership actions, leadership decisions, and leadership mindset. And they each embraced a leadership mindset. And through a strengths-based approach, we utilized that framework for performance improvement. And we created a love language that fueled leadership and progress. So our nurse practitioner took over the leading light for the practice. We set milestones for her for the first 12 months in which she knocked them out of the park. Literally in that 6 months, Dr. Goldstein had not seen so much progress within his organization from way before. And he was truly flabbergasted. And I remember him coming to me, he's like, what did you do? Are you a miracle worker? I said, no. We just needed to connect the dots. We had no central nervous system connecting our brain to the heart of our organization that was helping us fire. And when I put it into those terms, he's like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And I said, you always wanted to be the brain. You never wanted to be the central nervous system. So your team is the heart. Your leader is the central nervous system. And you can be the brain. And through that process, 2024 marked a milestone for Dr. Goldstein and this functional pediatric health group. Here are the results. They have not had a single employee leave since we completed our process with them. The patient satisfaction surveys have increased by over 20%, specifically notating that employees seemed happier, friendlier, and less stressed. In Brandon's words, patients weren't feeling like employees were in a fight or flight place. They identified that employees were more co-creating, more open, were in that prefrontal cortex. Patient arrival rate went off the charts, and the on-time rate increased to a 96% arrival rate from 85%. And this came from accountability and leadership over outcomes and milestones that we were trying to create on behalf of the patient. The team has now added an additional physician, 2 nurse practitioners, and 3 support staff. The revenue has more than doubled as a result of the hiring and retention of staff, and they have now gone from transactional chaos to intentional transformation. So I bring this up to you because here are the crucial strategies that I utilized in this organization. 1, start with self-leadership. I needed to evaluate Dr. Goldstein's leadership mindset, his capability, and his responsibility. I ultimately found that everyone needed to transform into a leader, but I had found that they wanted Lisa as their leader. They saw something in Lisa. They felt that she could drive the ship better than Dr. Goldstein. And so you need to encourage your team to become the leaders they want to follow and unlock their own leadership mindset, regardless of their role, their title, or their pay. Use tools like journaling, where they can define their personal values, the practice vision that they have, what fills their bucket, what empties their bucket. Let them be the conduit of change for not just your company, but themselves, where they're trying to go. You need to foster open communication. That's number 2. Dr. Goldstein opened his team, and he recognized that he was not confident in his ability to lead them. And he ultimately felt that his drive was prioritizing patient care. So you need to hold regular, honest team meetings. You need to ask for anonymous feedback. You need to ensure that everyone feels safe and that their voice matters. Act on at least one suggestion to show you are listening. Highlight that suggestions are acted upon. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll have everyone put in their suggestions anonymously. I'll identify everyone that would qualify to be a change maker for the next 6 months, and put those on a leaderboard and allow everyone to vote on which one we prioritize for a 6-month transformation. Sometimes people are looking for change that is too fast and it will hurt our organization. So timing is everything. For the past 20 years, I've had the privilege of helping pediatric occupational, physical, and speech therapists redefine the way that their business functions and helping them tap into their entrepreneurial spirit. In recent years, I recognized a deficit, which was bringing private practice owners together with the vision of allowing them to connect, learn, and grow. And Growth Code Conference was born. From sunrise to sunset, we offer an opportunity for pediatric, occupational, physical, speech therapy private practice leaders and owners to connect, collaborate, learn, grow. From yoga to breakfast to lunch to coffee carts and more. We take you to another world where you are inspired, where you feel empowered, and where you are able to grow to the next level so that we all can change the world one child at a time. The third thing is we need to delegate with purpose. We ultimately recognized that Lisa was the leader and delegated the leadership functions that were falling through the cracks. We recognized that Lisa had the ability to transform the way that our employees fulfilled the function in their organization. Identify tasks that you can delegate based on a team member's strength. Provide clear expectations. Include initial support and step back. This will build confidence and frees you up to focus on what fills your bucket in that sphere of influence. And I utilize that word, sphere of influence, very important. We need to practice within our sphere of influence. Number 4, invest in growth. Even on a budget, sometimes we slow play ourselves and we're not taking calculated risks that will drive transformation at an acceptable rate. We spent 18 months to make this full transformation. It required investment in people, learning, accountability, and culture development. Building a leadership culture is not an overnight project. It's not a sprint. So stop thinking that within 3 months, you're going to get a leader to change your organization. Sometimes it takes 3 years, 5 years. This is a marathon. How bad do you want it? The next thing that we often forget is to recognize and celebrate. Showcase progress. We created a fun atmosphere. We challenged each other to celebrate each other's accomplishments. We challenged our patients to celebrate their accomplishments, but also our team's accomplishments. We became a winning team because celebration might have been cheesy, but it made the environment fun. When we look at all of the social media and what people are utilizing their time for, they want to laugh, they want to be funny, they want to feel different. They want to either acknowledge the opportunity that's ahead or be thankful for what is not happening to them. And so by celebrating and recognizing, we can learn their love language for your stakeholders. What do they need to feel valued? What do they need to have fun? What do they need to see progress? How do they want to be recognized? Our team, our patients, etc. Implement one simple recognition system. It can be shout outs in a meeting. It could be team swag. It could be bulletin board, gift cards, team building games, strengthening relationships. This is the business of people. We are in the people business. I don't understand why we are not recognizing that we get so stuck in transaction that we miss the mark on transformation. It doesn't have to be every day. But if every week we have a way of doing it, and every month we have a way of doing it, and every quarter we have a way of doing it, whatever that may be, and it doesn't have to be a huge production, but it does have to align with what is meaningful to your team, because you will attract those that fit your model, and you should repel those that don't fit your model. Then we have to measure progress and adapt. It's so important. Through this 18-month process, we track patient feedback, staff retention, staff engagement, and more. We had a KPI dashboard for each employee to identify times of frustration, times of burnout, times of enthusiasm, and times of just, it's good. Not everything has to be polarizing. So set measurable goals. An example could be reduce turnover by 10% in 6 months. Check in quarterly. Use patient surveys. Stay interviews with employees to gauge shifts and optimize your approach. But don't be afraid to own your fault. Fall on your sword. Measure, adapt, and improve. And I bring this up because I've been blessed. My average employment retention's over 8 years, with some as long as 22 years. Do I take credit? No. I give credit. I've been blessed with staff that find value and meaningfulness in what we're able to offer. They are the product of that stat. And where I take ownership is that I try every day to repel anyone that would not be fulfilled within our ecosystem. So our leadership mindset is transparency. We look to create authenticity, and we like to put responsibility on those employees to create the culture that they want within our ecosystem. And as we go through year over year, their voice is just as meaningful as day one as it is on day 20, or 20 years, I should say it that way. No matter where you are in the retention of employment, your voice never changes in value. And I think that's something that people don't recognize, is that sometimes they're like, well, the longer they're here, the more their voice means something. I go, no. When they come in day one, their voice means something. When they're here 30 years later, their voice means something. And every year we change, and their voice will help us change in the right way. And when someone new comes into your group, as long as you've shown them what fits and what doesn't fit, their voice will be constructive in a positive way, because you should have already repelled those that don't fit the culture of your company. So what does leadership look like when you're small? First and foremost, you got to lead with vision, not just tasks. Instill the mindset of leadership with each employee, regardless of their function. So the administrative employee that mops the floors, give them the mindset to say, this is your playground. Be proud of what you create here. We're going to recognize that the environment where we create magic is a byproduct of you. So we want you to make this clean. We want to help support you. Let us know what's getting in your way. But this is your space to own. The next thing is our roles must be able to tackle multiple functions. When we're small, you can't just push a button. You got to do more. So prioritize your roles. Streamline how you function. Understand that a small organization's leadership approach requires more from each member. You must have a small business mentality versus corporate mentality. I'm looking for the employee that grew up on a farm. I'm looking for the employee who grew up with family businesses. If you're a Google employee, you're not going to be happy in a small business employee unless you know the sacrifice you're making. Because when you go into Google, even though you're challenged in many incredible ways, you have a set function component. You're not able to go above or beyond because there's other people that have that function. When you're small, you got to wear multiple hats. You got to be an octopus. So I want you, from a leadership standpoint, to stay accessible, but not overbearing. Open your door. Invite opportunity in. Craft time in your day where people have open office hours. But don't micromanage. Empower results and responsibility in the way that your culture looks. Model resilience. Small organizations face big challenges. Cash flow issues, burnout. Show your team how to adapt and stay calm under pressure. The last one of this, I want you to own your limits. I want you to be transparent. Create authenticity as a cornerstone of the way relationships are developed, sustained in your organization. Make people want success for you as much as they want success for themselves, as much as they want success for teammates. There is no particle in your organization that should not be valued at the highest level. And so when we're building our culture that scales, I want you to embed core values into everyday actions. Define 3 to 5 non-negotiable values that reflect your practice's identity and weave them into daily routines. This could be employee acknowledgments, accountability actions with patients, employee benefit belief system, how you greet each employee. Create the magnet to attract the culture you want to see and repel those that are not in alignment. Work is work, play is for play. You can combine what you want work and play to look like in your organization, but don't forget, work is work. So we must measure culture and leadership effectiveness based on actions. So actions include employee satisfaction surveys. They include patient satisfaction surveys. They include employee retention, patient retention, practice reputation, practice growth, the outcome completion percentage, etc. All of these things are actions that we measure in our organization. They are byproducts of our culture and our leadership approach. So one of the things that I like to do each episode is a statistic. And so there was a 2023 study by McKinsey and Company that found organizations with a strong leadership culture are 2.3 times more likely to outperform their peers in revenue growth, with 67% of leaders reporting improved team performance. That's remarkable. I'm going to say it one more time because I think it's crucial. This 2023 study, it found that organizations with strong leadership culture were 2.3 times more likely to outperform their peers in revenue growth. The leadership culture was a direct byproduct of how they drove increased revenue. And 67% of leaders reported their team performed better as a result. So I have two quotes that I want to share for this episode. One is by Simon Sinek. Leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. Say it one more time. Leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. And then John Adams, I live by this. And this is why my title, if you ever email me, my title is Chief Problem Solver. Because I believe what John Adams says, which is every problem is an opportunity in disguise. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast. Don't forget, don't just survive, but thrive. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to the Private Practice Survival Guide podcast. I'm incredibly grateful to each and every one of you. Exciting news. We're now available everywhere, from Spotify to Apple Podcasts to YouTube or anywhere you like to listen to your podcasts. So watch, listen, and reach out. If you love this episode, please drop a 5-star review. It truly means the world to me. Are you looking for more ways to elevate your practice? If so, now is your chance. Reach out, go to my website, or email me at brandon@wellnessworksmp.com. And remember, it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving.